The auction of Fear the Air in the slave market was heavy, filled with the smell of rust, sweat, and fear. Voices shouted numbers in different alien languages. Chains rattled. The stage was lit by harsh yellow lights that made every shadow look sharper, more dangerous. Behind the stage, in a small dark cage, a young alien girl sat with her knees pulled to her chest. Her thin arms trembled as she hugged herself. She had long silver hair that hung over her face, hiding her large green eyes. Her name was Lyra. She had been a slave since she could remember. She knew what happened to girls who were bought. She knew the pain. She knew the screams. The auctioneer, a tall four-armed alien with a cruel grin, shouted, "Next item. Young. Female, healthy, obedient, perfect for work or entertainment." His eyes scanned the crowd and sparkled when he saw the hungry looks. Lyra's heart pounded. She had heard stories about humans. Some aliens said humans were monsters who enjoyed torture. Some said humans used slaves for experiments. She never believed humans could be kind. She had never seen one who was. The crowd parted as a human stepped forward. He was tall, middle-aged, with streaks of gray in his short brown hair. His clothes were simple, but clean. His face was calm, unreadable. He stood out because he did not smile or laugh like the other buyers. He just watched. The auctioneer began the bidding. Starting price, 200 credits. Hands shot up. Numbers were shouted. 250, 300, 350. Then the human raised his hand. His voice was low, but clear. 500. The crowd went silent for a moment. That was a high price for one slave. The auctioneer's grin widened. 500 credits. Any more offers? Nobody spoke. The human's gaze never left Lyra. Sold. The auctioneer slammed his metal staff on the stage. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Lyra's chains were unlocked from the cage wall, but the heavy collar stayed around her neck. The guard yanked her forward, pushing her toward the human. Her heart sank. This was it. She had been bought by a human. She tried to keep her face blank, but inside she was screaming. She knew what would happen next. The human took the end of her chain without a word and led her away from the stage. His steps were steady. Hers were shaky, her bare feet cold against the metal floor. They entered a narrow hallway behind the market, away from the noise. She waited for the first blow, the first order, the first sign of cruelty. But it never came. Instead, the human stopped. He turned toward her. His eyes met hers for the first time. They were not cruel. They were tired. Like someone who had seen too much of the world then. He did something she did not expect. He took out a small device from his pocket, pointed it at her collar, and pressed a button. Click. The collar unlocked and fell to the floor with a dull thud. Lyra froze. Her mind could not understand what had just happened. "You're free now," the human said quietly. His voice was calm, almost gentle. She stared at him. Free. The word felt strange on her tongue. "Yes. My name is Elias. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to get you out of this place." Lyra's first thought was that this was a trick. Slavers sometimes pretended to be kind to make escape harder. She took a small step back, ready to run. Elias didn't move toward her. "You can leave if you want. But if you walk into the streets alone, they'll catch you in minutes, or worse." She swallowed hard. "Why did you buy me?" "Because someone once saved me," he said simply. The sound of heavy boots echoed from down the hallway. Voices shouted in the alien language she knew too well. "Guards." Elias looked over his shoulder. "We need to go. Now." Before she could decide, he started walking quickly toward a side door. Something in his steady steps made her follow. Not because she trusted him, but because staying meant going back to the cages. They moved through dark alleys behind the market. The air damp and smelling of oil. Lyra's eyes darted everywhere, watching for traps. Every shadow looked like an enemy. They reached a large docking bay where ships of all shapes and sizes were parked. Elias pointed toward a small worn ship near the corner. "That's mine." But before they could reach it, a figure stepped out from behind a cargo crate. Lyra froze. Her stomach turned cold. It was her former owner, a tall alien with black armor and eyes like red glass. His thin mouth curled into a smile. "Well," the alien said slowly, "you've saved me the trouble of finding you, little one." Elias's jaw tightened. His hand moved near his blaster, but he didn't draw it yet. The alien's gaze moved to Elias. "You have something that belongs to me." Lyra's breath came faster. Her eyes flicked between them. Elias's voice was calm, but firm. "She's not yours anymore." The alien's smile widened, and the guards began to step forward. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know what Elias was planning. She didn't even know if he could win. But she knew one thing. If the alien took her back, she would never see the sky again. The strangers offered the docking bay was silent except for the soft hum of ship engines and the echo of approaching boots. Lyra's former owner stood like a shadow made of steel, his red glass eyes fixed on her. Two armed guards flanked him. Their weapons pointed low but ready. Lyra's throat tightened. She remembered the sting of his whip, the cold chains in his cells. Her knees wanted to give out, but she forced herself to stand still. Elias didn't step back. He met the alien's stare with steady human eyes. "Walk away," he said, his voice calm but carrying weight. The alien laughed softly, a sound like a knife scraping metal. "You think I will leave without what's mine? You paid a price for her, human. That only means you stole her from the wrong man." Lyra's breath caught. She wanted to run, but the guards blocked the only way to the ship. Elias spoke slowly. "She isn't yours anymore. She's free." The alien's smile twisted into something cruel. "Freedom. You dare speak of such a thing here?" He stepped forward. "I will give you one chance, human. Leave the girl, and I will let you live." Elias's hand hovered near his blaster. Not happening. The next moment was a blur. One of the guards lunged forward, weapon raised. Elias drew his blaster in a single motion. The sharp zap of energy echoed in the bay, and the guard crumpled to the ground. "Run," Elias barked. Lyra's legs moved before her mind could catch up. She dashed toward the ship, the sound of footsteps, and gunfire exploding behind her. Elias's shots were precise, forcing the second guard to dive for cover. The alien shouted in fury, his voice carrying a promise of vengeance. By the time Lyra reached the ship's ramp, her chest burned from running. She turned just in time to see Elias sprinting after her, his blaster smoking. The moment he stepped onto the ramp, he slammed his hand against a panel, and the ship's doors closed with a hiss. Inside, the dim lights flickered to life. "Strap in," Elias ordered, moving to the cockpit. Lyra hesitated. Where are you taking me?" "Somewhere safe." His hands flew across the controls, powering up the engines. The ship rumbled, lifting from the docking bay floor. Through the window, Lyra saw her former owner standing in the shadows, watching them go. His red eyes burned like fire in the dark dot as they broke through the station's docking shield. Elias kept his eyes forward. "You're not safe yet. You'll send hunters after us." Lyra sank into the co-pilot's chair, clutching the armrests. "Why?" she asked again, her voice barely a whisper. "Why save me? You don't even know me." Elias didn't answer right away. Stars streaked past as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Then did he speak. Because I know what it's like to have no one. She looked at him, confused. You were a slave. Not exactly, he said. But I've been trapped before. Someone risked everything to get me out. I owe them. Now, I help others when I can. Lyra didn't know what to say. She had never heard of a human doing such a thing. For a few minutes, silence filled the cabin. The hum of the engines was the only sound. Then Elias leaned back and looked at her. You can stay with me until we find you a safe place. Or you can leave at the next station. Your choice. The words hit her like a strange wind. Choice. No one had ever given her one before. She stared down at her hands. They were thin, scarred from years of hard labor. She thought about stepping off the ship, about walking into a free world. But she didn't even know what free meant. Before she could answer, a loud beep came from the console. Elias frowned and tapped the screen. A red light flashed. Incoming distress beacon. Lyra leaned forward. What's that? Someone's calling for help, Elias said. His eyes narrowed. It's close. Her heart tightened. It's a trap, she said quickly. Slavers use fake beacons to lure ships. If you go, they'll take you too. Elias glanced at her. Maybe. But if it's real, someone needs help. Lyra shook her head. You can't risk it. Not for a stranger. Elias gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. You were a stranger an hour ago. Before she could argue, he adjusted the ship's course toward the beacon's coordinates. Lyra gripped the seat, anxiety burning in her stomach. You're going to get us killed. Or save a life, he said. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, revealing a drifting cargo vessel ahead. It looked damaged, its hull scarred by burn marks. No lights, no movement. Elias activated the scanner. No power. Life signs. Faint, but there. He stood up, grabbing a small bag from the wall. Stay here. I'll take a look. Lyra stood. 2. No, if you go, I'm going. His eyebrow lifted slightly. You don't trust me alone. I don't trust this, she said, motioning toward the silent ship. After a moment, Elias nodded. Fine, but stay behind me. They crossed the docking tunnel into the cargo vessel. The air inside was cold, smelling of metal and something rotten in the dim light. Lyra's eyes widened. The ship's cargo bay was lined with cages, and inside, alien captives, weak and silent, their eyes begging for help. Her chest tightened. This was her past, staring back at her. Elias crouched near the nearest cage. We're getting them out, but before they could move, the ship's doors slammed shut. A voice echoed from hidden speakers, low, mocking. Welcome, human. Welcome back, little Lyra. She froze. She knew that voice. It was her former owner. The chase through the stars, the cold air inside the cargo vessel felt heavier now, like it carried danger in every breath. The voice of Lyra's former owner echoed again, dripping with amusement. You should have run when you had the chance, human. Elias's jaw tightened. He turned slowly, scanning the dark corners. Where are you? A low chuckle answered. Everywhere. Lyra's pulse raced. She clutched the edge of a cage as if it would keep her grounded. It's a trap, she whispered, though the words felt useless now. Without warning, metal panels in the walls slid open. Armed hunters stepped out, tall, armored, and carrying stun rifles. Their visors glowed faint red in the dim light. Elias moved fast, pulling Lyra behind him as he drew his blaster. Stay low. The first hunter fired. A bright pulse of energy hit the wall where Lyra's head had been a moment earlier. The smell of scorched metal filled the air. Elias fired back, his shots sharp and precise. One hunter dropped, armor sparking. But more kept coming. Lyra's instincts screamed at her to run, yet her legs stayed frozen. Then her eyes landed on a control panel near the cages. The locks? If she opened them, the captives could scatter. Cause chaos, give Elias a chance. Her heart hammered. She ran for the panel. Lyra. Elias shouted, but she didn't stop. A hunter saw her move and aimed. She dove to the ground, sliding behind the panel, hands shaking as she pressed buttons. The locks clanged open one by one, the cages swinging wide. The captives, weak but desperate, surged forward. Some fled toward the docking tunnel. Others attacked the hunters with whatever strength they had left. The room erupted into chaos. Elias grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her toward the exit. Nice work. Now move. They ran, dodging blasts and shouting voices. The docking tunnel was just ahead when a massive figure stepped into their path. Lyra's blood turned to ice. It was him, her former owner, standing tall in black armor. The glow of his red eyes fixed on her. "You think you can take what's mine and walk away?" he said, his voice low and dangerous. Elias didn't hesitate. He fired. The alien moved like a shadow, dodging every shot. Then he lunged forward, knocking the blaster from Elias's hand with a single blow. Elias staggered back, blocking the alien's path to Lyra. "Go," he barked. Lyra wanted to run, but her feet wouldn't move. She watched as the two men clashed, Elias fast and focused, the alien strong and ruthless. Every punch, every block was a battle of survival. Then, a stun blast hit the wall near her, jolting her back to reality. She grabbed Elias's fallen blaster and fired at the alien's leg. The shot hit, sending him stumbling. Elias seized the moment, shoving the alien back and grabbing Lyra's hand. Now, they sprinted through the docking tunnel, sealing the HAU. Sealing the hatch behind them. Elias dropped into the pilot's seat, fingers flying over the controls. The ship roared to life, lifting from the cargo vessel's side. But on the scanner, multiple blips appeared. Small hunter ships were already launching after them. "They're coming," Lyra said, gripping the seat. "Yeah," Elias replied, his eyes narrowing. "Let's see if they can keep up." The chase began. The stars outside, blurred as Elias pushed the ship to its limits. The hunters followed close, their weapons flashing. Blue energy bolts streaked past the cockpit, shaking the hull. Elias twisted the controls, sending the ship into a sharp dive. They skimmed the surface of a massive asteroid, so close that rocks scraped the shields. Lyra clung to the seat, her stomach flipping with every sudden turn. "They're still behind us." Elias's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then we make it harder for them." He steered into a dense asteroid field. Giant rocks drifted in slow, deadly patterns. The hunters followed, but their formation broke. As they tried to dodge the obstacles, one hunter ship clipped an asteroid, spinning out of control before exploding in a bright flash. Lyra's eyes widened. "One down, two to go," Elias said. He weaved between the rocks with skill, using their size as cover. But the hunters were closing in again, their weapons locking on. "Hold on," Elias shouted. He spun the ship hard to the left, looping behind a massive asteroid. As the hunters rounded it, Elias fired the ship's rear cannons. Both enemy ships exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. Silence returned to the cockpit, broken only by the steady hum of the engines. Lyra let out a shaky breath. We made it." "For now," Elias said, scanning the controls. "But your friend back there isn't going to stop. He'll keep coming." She looked down, her hands trembling. "He'll never stop." Elias glanced at her. "Then we make sure he can't follow us again." Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time, she believed he might actually mean it. But before she could speak, the ship's alarm blared again. Another Signal was coming through, not a distress beacon this time, but a message. Elias opened it. The screen flickered, and the red-eyed alien appeared. His voice like poison. "You can run across every star in the galaxy, human, but I will find you. And when I do, I will take back what is mine, and make you watch." The message cut out. Elias's jaw tightened. "We're going to end this." Lyra stared at him, a strange mix of fear and hope twisting in her chest. The trap ship floated in the quiet dark, far from any planet or station. Stars glittered like cold eyes, but Lyra didn't feel safe. Not after the message. Not after. Hearing his voice again, Elias sat in the pilot's chair, scanning the navigation display. "He won't stop chasing us," he said without looking up. Lyra hugged her knees in the co-pilot's seat. "Then we keep running." Elias shook his head. "Running won't work forever. We need to end this on our terms." Her stomach twisted. "End this? You mean fight him?" "Yes," Elias said simply. "But first, we find out where he's keeping his network." Lyra didn't like the sound of it, but she didn't argue. She knew Elias was right. Her former owner had eyes and ears everywhere. He could send hunters after them any time. A soft beep from the console made Elias frown. Incoming transmission, encrypted. He tapped a few keys, and a voice crackled through the speakers. "This is Captain Merrick. Elias, is that you?" Elias's eyes narrowed. "Arek. I thought you were halfway across the galaxy." Was Marek replied. "But I've got information you need. Your problem is moving his operations. He's taking a shipment to the Talvaron Rift. I can lead you there." Lyra's heart skipped. "It's a trap," she whispered. Elias glanced at her. "Probably." Then into the he said, "Send the coordinates." Lyra stared at him. "You're walking straight into it." "Sometimes," Elias said, his voice calm, "the fastest way to end a hunt is to let the predator think you're prey." Hours later, the ship slipped into the shadow of the Talvaron Rift. A cluster of shattered moons, their jagged pieces drifting slowly in a haze of glowing dust. It was beautiful in a dangerous way, like a frozen explosion. Elias powered down most systems, making the ship look like drifting debris. "We wait," he said quietly. Lyra pressed her face to the viewport, scanning the field. "I don't see anything." "Patience," Elias murmured. Then, shapes began to emerge from the dust. Long, sleek cargo ships, 3 of them moving in formation. Around them, smaller escort craft circled like sharks. "There he is," Elias said. Lyra's breath caught. She couldn't see his face, but she knew her former owner was there. Elias checked his blaster, then looked at her. "We get in, we find his control center, and we destroy his records. Without them, he can't track you. Or the others he owns. You want me to go with you? Yes, you know his ships. You know where things are." Her chest tightened. She wanted to say no. She wanted to stay hidden on the ship. But something inside her, something new, told her she couldn't let Elias face this alone. "I'll go," she said softly. Elias guided their ship close to a drifting moon fragment, using its shadow to hide their approach. Then he launched a small stealth pod, barely big enough for 2 people. The pod glided silently toward the largest cargo ship. They latched onto its hull with magnetic clamps and slipped inside through a maintenance hatch. The air smelled like oil and burned metal, familiar and unwelcome. Lyra moved carefully behind Elias as they crept through narrow corridors. The hum of engines vibrated through the floor. They reached a security door. Elias hacked the panel with a small device. The lock clicking open after a tense 30 seconds. Inside was a control room filled with glowing screens. Data streams scrolled faster than Lyra could read. She saw lists, names, prices, locations, all slaves, all property of her former owner. Her stomach turned. "This is all of them," she whispered. Elias nodded. "And when we destroy this, we take away his power." He pulled out a small explosive charge from his pack. "Set the timer for 5 minutes. That gives us enough time to get out." But before he could place it, a voice filled the room. "You really thought you could sneak in here, human?" Lyra spun around. The door had sealed shut, and standing in the center of it was her former owner, flanked by 4 armored guards. Elias moved in front of her, blaster ready. "Move, or you'll do nothing." The alien interrupted. "You've walked into my ship, my trap. And now you'll die here." He motioned to the guards. "Take the girl. Leave the human to me." Lyra's heart pounded. The guards advanced, weapons raised. Elias fired first, hitting one in the chest. The room exploded into chaos, blasts, shouts. The smell of scorched metal. Lyra ducked behind a console, grabbing a fallen guard's weapon. Her hands shook, but she aimed at another guard and fired. He went down, armor sparking. Elias fought fiercely, but the alien moved in fast, striking with brutal strength. Each hit from his armored fists sent Elias reeling. Lyra saw the explosive charge on the floor. Its timer still at 5 minutes. If she could set it and run, they could still escape. She crawled across the floor under the cover of console sparks, grabbing the device. She slammed it onto the main server bank and activated the timer. The alien saw her and roared in fury. "You dare!" Elias tackled him before he could reach her, both men crashing into a wall. "Go!" Elias shouted. Lyra ran for the hatch. Elias broke free from the alien's grasp, firing a last shot before diving after her. They sprinted down the corridor, the timer ticking in Lyra's head. They reached the pod and launched it just as a deafening explosion tore through the cargo ship, sending debris into the glowing dust of the Talvaran rift. From the pod's viewport, they watched the massive ship break apart. Lyra sat shaking, her breath coming fast. "Did we do it?" Elias nodded, still catching his breath. "We did it." But in the shadows of the rift, another ship's lights flickered on, larger, darker, and faster. Lyra's stomach dropped. She didn't need to see the pilot to know who it was. The battle for freedom. The escape pod rattled as it sped away from the burning wreck of the cargo ship. Lyra's breathing was still uneven, her heart pounding from the explosion. She had destroyed the database. The chains of hundreds of slaves were gone in a flash of light, but her victory felt short-lived. Through the pod's small viewport, a massive shadow moved in the glowing dust of the Talvaran rift. A dark ship emerged, twice the size of the one they had just destroyed. Its hull was jagged like the teeth of a predator, and its engines glowed deep. Blood-red. Lyra didn't need to guess who commanded it. She could feel it. "It's him," she whispered. Elias's hands tightened on the pod's controls. He's not letting go. The larger ship's weapons lit up, casting red light across the rift. A beam of energy shot past them, close enough to shake the pod. "We can't outrun that in this tin can," Elias said. "We need to get back to our ship." He steered toward the shadow of a drifting moon fragment. The pod slipped into the dark, hidden from the enemy's scanners. Beyond the moon's curve, Elias's ship waited, cloaked in its stealth mode. They boarded quickly, sealing the hatch as another blast shook the fragment they'd just hidden behind. Lyra strapped into the co-pilot seat. "We fight." Elias powered up the engines. "We fight." The enemy ship moved with deadly grace, its weapons spitting red fire across the black void. Elias's hands worked the controls with practiced speed, dodging blasts and weaving through the rift's jagged debris. Lyra watched the scanner. 2 escort ships are breaking off from the main one. They're flanking us. Then let's even the odds. Elias swung the ship hard to the left, positioning an asteroid between them and the escorts. He fired the rear cannons. The explosion lit the rift like a second sun. One escort went up in flames, debris scattering into the rip. Debris scattering into the dust. The other kept coming. Shields at 60%, Lyra reported, her voice tight. Elias gritted his teeth. I'll get us an opening. You're going to take the shot. Lyra's head snapped toward him. Me? Never you've held a blaster. This is just bigger. Before she could argue, he swung the ship into a barrel roll, bringing the last escort directly into her targeting range. The targeting reticle flashed red. Lyra's hands hovered over the trigger controls. Her pulse was so loud in her ears, she almost couldn't hear Elias's voice. Steady now. She pressed the trigger. The cannons roared, and the escort exploded in a cloud of molten metal. A shock ran through her, part fear, part pride. I hit it. Elias gave a short nod. Good. Now we've got one enemy left. The main ship loomed closer, its red-eyed commander no doubt watching every move. He opened a channel. His voice slithered through the speakers. You destroy my records, kill my men, and still think you can escape. You've made this personal, human. I will take the girl's life in front of you. Lyra's jaw tightened. She had been running from him for years. Now she was done running. Open the channel, she said. Elias glanced at her but tapped the control. She leaned forward, her voice steady. You will never own me again, and when this ends, you'll be nothing but dust. For a second, there was silence. Then the alien laughed, low and cold. We'll see. The battle turned fierce. The larger ship's guns pounded their shields, each hit sending shudders through the hull. Elias darted between drifting asteroids, using them for cover, but a well-placed shot slammed into their right engine. Warning lights flashed. Engines. Losing power, Lyra shouted. We've still got one trick left. Elias flipped a switch, ejecting a cluster of small drones from the ship's belly. They drifted into the rift, broadcasting false engine signatures. The enemy's targeting systems locked onto the decoys, firing volley after volley into empty space. Elias swung the ship around, flying low across the surface of a massive asteroid. Get ready to fire everything we've got at his bridge. The asteroid's curve hid them until the last moment. When they shot out from behind it, the enemy's bridge filled the targeting screen. Now, Elias barked. Lyra hit the controls. Every cannon, every missile, fired at once. The blasts tore through the enemy's forward shields, ripping open the armor around the bridge. The alien's voice screamed over the comm, a sound of rage and disbelief. No. Another volley hit, and the bridge exploded in a blinding flash. The massive ship began to break apart, fire spilling from its wounds. The rift fell silent again, lit only by drifting debris and the glow of their engines. Lyra stared. Out at the wreckage, is it over? She asked softly. Elias didn't answer right away. He was scanning the field, his expression unreadable. Finally, he said, for now. She leaned back in her seat, her chest rising and falling slowly. We won. Elias glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. We're still breathing. That's a win. But as they turned the ship toward open space, a single escape pod drifted away from the wreck, too small to track on scanners. Unless you knew where to look. Inside it, the red-eyed alien sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the stars. This wasn't over. The last stand, the wreckage of the enemy ship faded into the black behind them, swallowed by the endless rift. Lyra stared at the scanner, watching for any sign of pursuit. Nothing. The space around them was silent, but silence could lie. Elias worked at the controls, his face calm but pale. We're heading toward the outer reach. Fewer patrols out there, Lyra nodded. though her mind was still trapped in the last battle. She kept replaying the image of the enemy's bridge exploding. Part of her wanted to believe it was over. Another part whispered that the red-eyed alien was too stubborn, too proud to die in a fire. She was right. Hours later, with the ship running on autopilot, Lyra went to the storage bay to check supplies. She found the ration crates half empty, and the water filter blinking red. They needed a station soon. When she returned to the cockpit, Elias was slumped in his seat. Elias. She stepped closer. His head turned toward her, but his eyes were glassy. A dark stain spread across the side of his jacket. Blood. Her breath caught. "You're hurt." "Old injury," he muttered. "It reopened during the fight." "I'll be fine." "You're bleeding through your shirt," she said sharply. "That's not fine." She pulled the medkit from under the console and knelt beside him. As she cut away the fabric, she saw a deep burn along his ribs, not fresh, but aggravated, and raw from strain. He winced as she cleaned it. "We can't stop now. He'll be looking for us." Her hands stilled. "You think he's still alive?" Elise's silence was answer enough. They didn't have to wait long for proof. An hour. Later, the proximity alarm blared. Lyra's eyes flew to the scanner. A small, fast ship was closing in from behind. Elias's voice was tight. "He found us." The pursuing craft darted forward, weaving through debris like a predator scenting blood. It was no warship. It was a hunter ship built for speed and precision. Lyra's stomach nodded. "You're in no shape to fight him." Elise's hand hovered over the controls. "We don't have a choice." Another blast shook the hull, throwing Lyra against the console. The hunter's weapons were faster than she'd seen before. "Take the pilot's seat," Elias said suddenly. Her eyes widened. "What? You know the controls? You fired the cannons before. You can do this." "I'm not, you are now," he cut in, his tone leaving no room for argument. She slid into the seat, her fingers clumsy on the controls. Elias took the co-pilot's chair, grimacing against the pain as he powered up the weapons. The red-eyed alien's voice came over the comm, cold and certain. "Your human is broken, little one. Give him to me, and I might let you live." Lyra's fear hardened into something sharper. "You've had enough of my life. You get nothing." She jerked the controls, sending the ship into a tight roll. A blast missed them by inches, lighting the dark with red fire. Elias's voice was calm despite the strain. "Lead him toward that debris field. Tight spaces give us the advantage." She guided the ship into a cluster of broken satellites and shattered hulls. The hunter followed close, its weapons firing in quick bursts. Metal shards spun around them like knives. Lyra swerved between them, her hands growing steadier with each turn. "Now cut right," Elias ordered. She obeyed, and the hunter's ship scraped against a spinning hulk of metal, its shields sparking. Elias fired the cannons, the blast tearing into the hunter's side. The alien roared over the comm, not in pain, but in rage. The hunter came at them again, faster this time. A direct hit slammed into their rear shields, sending sparks across the cockpit. Warning lights flashed red. "Shields down to 30%, Elias said grimly. Lyra's mind raced. They couldn't win by running. They had to end it here. She spotted a massive derelict ahead, an old war cruiser. Its hull cracked, but its reactor core still faintly glowing. An idea sparked. "I'm going to take him through that ship," she said. Elias's eyes flicked to her. The reactor could blow. Exactly. She steered toward a jagged opening in the cruiser's side. A full. The hunter followed, closing in for the kill. Inside, the corridors were wide enough for only one ship at a time. The walls glowed faintly from the reactor's unstable energy. The hunter's weapons fired again, grazing their wing. Lyra pushed the throttle, racing deeper into the cruiser. At the last moment, she cut hard upward, skimming past the reactor core. The hunter, focused on chasing her, flew straight into the trap. Elias fired a missile into the core as they escaped. Through another breach in the hull, the explosion was blinding. A shockwave hurled their ship forward, tumbling them into open space. When the light faded, nothing was left of the hunter's ship. Lyra's hands shook on the controls. She turned to Elias. "Is it over now?" He leaned back, exhausted but alive. "It's over." For him, her shoulders sagged with relief. But deep down, she knew the galaxy was still full of others like him. Elias gave her a faint smile. "You did good, Lyra. Better than good." She met his eyes, realizing that for the first time since she'd been taken, she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting. And she wasn't done yet. The choice stars outside were calm again, their cold lights spilling across the cockpit. The wreckage of the hunter ship was long gone, scattered into dust by the reactor blast, for the first time in days. The silence didn't feel like danger. Lyra sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the endless black. Her hands were steady. Now, though the memory of the chase still lingered in her mind, she could feel the ache in her muscles. The faint hum of adrenaline fading away. Behind her, Elias adjusted the bandages around his ribs. He moved slower than usual, but there was a faint spark in his eyes. Pride, not just survival. "You did." "Well," he said. Lyra turned slightly. "I didn't have a choice." "You did," Elias said, his tone gentle. "And you chose to fight." "That's different." She didn't answer right away. The truth was, she had always thought of herself as someone who reacted, someone who only moved when forced, who only survived because there was no other option. But these last few days had shown her something else. She could act. She could decide. The navigation panel beeped softly, pulling her thoughts back. A station marker appeared on the display, a small outpost drifting at the edge of the outer. "Reach. We'll dock there," Elias said. "Get supplies. Get you a new identity." Lyra frowned. "A new identity?" He nodded. "If you want to disappear, you'll need papers, records, a name no one connects to your past. You'll be able to go anywhere, live however you want. No more hiding." Her chest tightened. "You mean you'll leave me there?" Elias leaned back in his seat. "That's your choice. You've earned your freedom. What you do with it is up to you." The word freedom felt strange again, like the first time she had heard it from him. But now, it didn't sound like a trick. It sounded real, and that made the choice harder. The station was small, but busy. A mix of travelers, traders, and mechanics moving through its dim corridors. The air smelled faintly of fuel and spiced food. Elias led the way to a quiet corner of the docking level. "I know someone here who can get you what you need," he said. They entered a narrow shop cluttered with old parts and flickering screens. Behind the counter sat an older alien with skin like cracked stone and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Elias said," the alien said in a gravelly voice. "It's been a while." Elias nodded. "I need a clean record and travel papers for her." The alien's gaze shifted to Lyra, scanning her silently. "Finally," he said, "it can be done. Give me an hour." Elias turned to Lyra. "This is your chance. When you walk out with those papers, no one will ever know you were a slave. You can start fresh." She stared at him, her heart heavy. "And you?" "I keep moving," Elias said simply. "There are other people out there who need help. I can't stop now." While the alien worked, Lyra walked through the station's market. She saw merchants selling bright fabrics, crates of fresh food, and trinkets from worlds she had never heard of. People laughed, argued, bargained. This was freedom. This was the life she could have, a small place of her own, work that didn't Hurt, days without fear. But as she wandered, she kept thinking about the cages, about the captives they had freed. She thought about the ones still trapped, the ones who had no Elias to save them. And she thought about how Elias had looked when he faced her former owner, not with fear, but with a steady calm that told her he'd already decided he wouldn't stop until the fight was over. An hour later, the alien handed her a small packet. All set. You're officially nobody. She held the papers, feeling their weight. Her new name stared up at her from the screen, a name that could take her anywhere. Elias stood by the door. You can take the next shuttle out. I'll head the other way. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she set the packet down on the counter. I'm not taking the shuttle, she said. Elias raised an eyebrow. You're staying here? She shook her head. I'm staying with you. He frowned slightly. Lyra, no, she said firmly. I don't just want to be free. I want to help others get free too. You saved me, but I saved you too. Remember, we work better together. For a moment, Elias studied her as if weighing the risks, the danger, the road ahead. Then a slow smile tugged at his mouth. All right. But you follow my lead. She grinned faintly. Only if you keep up with me. They left the station an hour later, the ship's engines carrying them back into the black. This time, the silence of space didn't feel empty. It felt like possibility. Lyra sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching the stars streak past. Where? To first, Elias checked the nav display. There's a transport route near Varek's belt. I've heard rumors of a slave ring there. She nodded. Then we break it. Elias glanced at her, something like pride in his eyes. You've changed. She looked out at the stars. No, I just finally decided who I want to be. The ship cut deeper into the dark. Two figures moving toward danger not because they had to, but because they chose to. And somewhere out there, in the endless reach of the galaxy, others waited in cages for the day someone would come. Now there were two people who would.